All right, so today we're actually going to be doing something new today. We're going to be checking out a product that was actually sent in for me to check out. So it's from this company called FIFINE. That's how they told me it was pronounced. And I'm looking at the AmpliTank Tank 3 microphone. FIFINE was, gracious enough to send this microphone in, wanted me to just do a video. They really didn't give me too much instruction whatsoever. So I just, unhooked my 7B, threw it on my desk, and, have been driving it for the past few days. And so, for people trying to do content creation, voice recordings, vocals, music, etc., there's really like an overwhelming amount of options when it comes to microphones. A lot of kind of the entry level has definitely been dominated by, those USB microphones that are really just plug and play solutions. Many of them are awesome, solutions, but there's definitely a situation where, professionals get to a point where they kind of split up their setup to, a dedicated microphone and a dedicated microphone preamp. Think of something like a Scarlett or a Behringer little mini unit, an Apollo, a Focusrite. A lot of those solutions are desirable because they're modular. If you prefer a different type of preamp or a different type of microphone, you're really not boxed in, as microphone preamps get more expensive, or you decide you need, different ports, different inputs, outputs. Maybe you're doing podcasting, you need more channels, etc. Going with separate microphones and preamps means that, your mics have continuous use case with, just a generic plug like XLR. And so that's what we have here with the Tank 3. It is a USB microphone, but it also has XLR plugged in, which is really awesome. I'll get into kind of why I think that's really cool about this, microphone. And we're seeing that creep into other microphones as well, which I really think overall is just better for this entry-level space that gives people room to grow. So funny enough, also, I'm actually using FIFINE's microphone stand in every video that you've seen in this new space. It's actually been this FIFINE stand here. I'll show a little bit of it in post and but I really like the guy. It's a really nice stand. It's got a nice place to kind of tuck the cable. I've actually bought two of them. I have a white one that I use for my girlfriend's desk, but really nice job. So when they reached out to me to check out the microphone, I was like, yeah, awesome. Let's see what we got here. So the Tank 3 is a super affordable dynamic microphone, and you're going to be hearing it throughout this entire video. Like I said, we've got that USB and XLR choice for that kind of future proofing, but for this video, most what I'm going to be using is running it into my preamp here, but I will, for a portion of the video, switch to the USB connection as well, because that's obviously a big factor. I want to kind of compare and contrast the audio quality as well. So like I said, most of the video I'll be running into my Focusrite 18i20. Definitely a more expensive preamp than you would probably pair with the microphone like this, but it's still a Focusrite preamp. It's comparable to most of the Scarlett line, so I think it's pretty appropriate. It's just got a lot of channels and is rack mountable, and so I'll definitely make sure I make note of when we're using it in USB mode as well. But one of the first things that I noticed just upon listening to it is that it's pretty flat. It's got a lot of flexibility in post, and its off-axis rejection's really, really good. I've definitely used more expensive microphones that were not this direct. They got in a lot more of the room. In general, my room here is not treated, and I just love the 7B, but it works great in that kind of direct line of voice situation. On the microphone, there is an included little headphone 3.5 millimeter jack for real-time voice monitoring as well. There's a volume knob for those headphones and a knob that controls the level of the microphone. When I'm using this microphone as I am right now, and it's kind of with the preamp, it's actually just like a passive microphone. There's no phantom power required. None of the controls or the buttons or dials work on it at all. It is simply just, giving what it's capturing straight to the interface. And so throughout this video, I'm not processing anything at all. This is basically the file as it comes right out of my DAW for both modes of the use of the microphone. And it's actually not too hard to drive. I definitely did pull back the gain on my Focusrite comparable to what I'd have for my 7B. It needs a lot of juice, but this mic doesn't need as much. And one of the things I like about it as well is in the USB mode, you've got a really nice hard mute button. I'm a huge fan of that. Always, any audio device that's got a microphone, give me a hard mute to mute before it hits my software. I trust software mute, but there's nothing like this big glowing light in front of you letting you know that it is muted from there. So really excellent stuff that we've got here. What I'm going to do now is I think I'm going to switch it over to the USB-C mode, get that configured. I'm going to level match as well as I can in post so that we're really hearing the differences, not let the volume fool you there. But I'll be right back, and we'll be rocking and rolling with this in its USB-C mode. All right, so you may not be able to see it in the frame, but we are using the microphone now in its direct USB-C mode. There's a nice nifty USB-C port right at the bottom for really just the least path of resistance, the easiest way to get this microphone into ones and zeros on your computer. So basically we're using the built-in preamp and converter of this microphone to get ones and zeros to your machine. And, again, we're talking pretty marginal differences here now. Your source tone is the most important thing, the quality of the microphone. And so I wouldn't expect a too drastic difference because, again, you could take a cheaper microphone than this one that's got XLR and plug it into a $3,000 preamp, and it doesn't matter. Your source tone is everything, and this source tone is pretty good. So I think this is going to be a great option for people to just go and have something they can quickly plug in for a quick podcast here and there. I know, most of my channel, a lot of you guys are home theater people because that's what I'm really interested in. I want more of you to be able to share your spaces with me. So this is a perfect example way to just get some decent quality, right? We're home theater nerds because we like quality. And I think this is a good step if, you're inspired to talk about your experience, your journey. There's not enough of us out there documenting what goes on in our systems and how we can help other people. One of the biggest things that I've enjoyed about making all of these unfolded circle videos is that you guys come and tell me that I helped you, which is insane to me, but I appreciate it. I'm going to keep doing it. So, I think this is a really good solution for people that just really quick want to, podcast. As the channel grows, even myself, I'm going to want to start doing, little home theater podcasts with some friends as well. This is a perfectly viable solution to start being able to participate in those. But anyway, I'm going to, take some time to kind of evaluate how this sounds, compare it to the microphone using my preamp, and I'll get back to you guys and kind of close out with my final thoughts. All right, so I had some chance to listen to the microphone in both of the configurations. It's pretty close. I'm not going to lie. It took a while of me kind of A and Bing them, which I think is good because at the time that I bought my preamp, it was $500, and it does not sound $500 better. In trying to be as critical as possible, I feel like the Scarlett sounded almost a little bit less digital. Like my voice sounded a little bit more dynamic compared to when it was over USB. But I think of the context of this mic being used, and especially in its USB mode, it's going to be used for things like Discord, like, uncritical podcasts, things like that. I think it's fine. I'll be very surprised if the difference is even noticeable on YouTube, but nonetheless, it gave me more to really kind of try with this microphone. And one of the other things I wanted to mention too is that I just like the look of it. It's a really nice, sleek looking microphone. And that plus already using their microphone arm that works perfectly with this microphone, by the way. It's literally snug as hell. I said yeah to checking it out. And so the Tank retails for $119 on their website, but I bet on some other retailers you can probably find it a bit cheaper. But even at its MSRP, I think there's a lot of value here. I think the biggest compliment that I can give the Tank 3 is that I was, just looking at the price, looking at the product, seeing what they were trying to target, I figured it'd be pretty obvious to my ears that it was going to be not as good as my 7B, but that wasn't the case. The directivity of this microphone is really good. It had that kind of nice, flat, neutral response that I'm looking for. I brought out my 7B, and I did dedicated time recording with each microphone to really figure out what was better. The 7B was better in the same ways that the preamp was better. I felt that emphasized there, but this isn't supposed to be a shootout. The 7B is more than 3 times expensive this microphone, so I would expect that performance, but this will get you really 80-85% of the way there, and then you can get that extra few percent by just tacking on a preamp, and you've just got a great solution. Maybe you decide that while you're using it as USB, it gives you the time to really just pick on what outboard preamp you might want. Something like a Rodecaster would work perfectly with this little Rodecaster Duo. Now you've got the Rodecaster with some awesome faders, and you've got a really quality XLR microphone that in later down the line, maybe you decide you want to upgrade to something better, an RE20 or something like that. Well, now again, you've got some friends over, you want to do a kind of live podcast thing, man, go buy 4 of these things and start a podcast. That would be really cool. You get some awesome quality right out the gate, and then you've got that expandability to take these microphones and use them in more practical, applicable ways as well. So overall, thank you guys so much. Thank you, FIFINE, for sending me this out and letting me check it out. I am thoroughly impressed with the quality, build quality all around with this microphone. I definitely give it my recommendation if you're looking for something comparable. I think I prefer how this sounds to when I had something like an Audio-Technica AT2020, but it's a different type of microphone, right? I'm really looking for that type of dynamic microphones, not really looking for some kind of more like small diaphragm or large diaphragm condenser type microphones where really trying to get more of the room sound. I like this directivity. I'm not really in a treated room, so not yet at least. But again, you guys wouldn't really know that because the directivity of the 7B and this mic is really spot on. So overall, again, great job. Thanks for checking this out. Thank you guys for checking out this video and all of the others. I'll have a link to FIFINE's website, one for the boom stand, which, dude, again, not to keep harping on it, but this is one of the best pieces of hardware that I've used. I love how it looks on my desk. I love how low profile it is. But anyway, it's about the mic. But again, thanks for checking this out. More videos coming soon, and I hope you can tell I've been trying to really crank them out because, really trying to get to a point where, I just get these videos out to as many people as possible. I like that you guys are engaging. I've certainly got more videos coming up on the theater, of course. That stuff's never going to stop, but wanted to take a moment, shout out FIFINE. Thanks for letting me check this out. Thanks for watching the video. I will catch you guys later on in the next one. Bye-bye.